Our mission is to change lives for the better by creating pathways to opportunity. Today, we serve more than 200,000 students and graduate 45 to 50,000 during an academic year, 2/3 of whom belong to one or more historically underserved populations. It's clear that for many, education is far more meaningful than a coming-of-age experience or some external validation. It is a gateway to a better life for themselves and their families. We need to address the root problem. Higher education has been engineered beyond its primary objective, enabling economic and social mobility for its students. Institutions contend with competing priorities, establish budget mechanisms, and conflicting incentives that can favor selectivity, constrain enrollment, drive up costs, and propagate outdated models.
Western Governors delivers an education through competency-based education model. I'd like you to elaborate that a little bit and see what we can do to amend the Higher Ed Act to accommodate that, or your opinion of the benefits of it.
Sure. Over a century ago, we kind of established and codified a credit hour into our system of higher education, and something that started really as a way for faculty to accrue hours and get paid became somehow a measure of learning. While competency-based takes a very different approach, which is it tries to keep the standard for learning, meaning the proficiency against a particular learning outcome, like that is actually what determines that you've actually developed the competency that's necessary to complete the course. When you design around that model, it allows a couple things I'll just highlight. First and foremost, it allows you to more directly align the learning outcomes with the work and that which they need to be readied for. Second, it actually allows you to personalize learning such that an individual can leverage that which they may already be quite skilled in and can move quickly through that, and they can dedicate more time and attention to things that they need to focus on and may have less preparedness in. But at the end of the day, what you can determine with a competency-based approach is that every individual has been assessed and validated proficient against those learning outcomes.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on how you create these programs specifically while keeping the costs low?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Representative Wahlberg. We start with the fundamental principle that education has to be a path to opportunity. And so we start from that opportunity and work backwards, if you will. We actually directly identify those skills and requirements that are needed in the workforce, particularly the future workforce. That can come from partnerships with a company called Lightcast, who can actually do a great library and catalog of all the skills that are needed. But once we identify kind of macro demand out there, we then start working directly with employers and associations that represent that topical or kind of that field of study and domain of expertise, such that we're gaining that input directly into the design and development of our curriculum, so that we know that fundamentally that when our students complete those programs, that they're actually ready and possess the skills and competencies that are needed to be successful in the workforce.
We did a bill that said a college has to co-sign for the loan. So colleges are involved whether that loan is made. Is that a good idea, a bad idea, or an idea worth exploring? Mr. Pulsipher.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think that there certainly are ways by which, if you increase institutional accountability or risk sharing in the cost of attaining a degree, that would increase the incentive to control the cost of attaining the degree.
Thank you. Governor Polis, good idea? Worth exploring?
I do think the more we can bring a spotlight to value, the better, that's for sure. I would share with you some of the things that we've held ourselves accountable to. That you absolutely, to increase value, you have to increase completion rates. So you have to look at how well are students who are beginning the program, completing the program. You then have to look at whether or not, having completed that program, are they actually attaining employment in the field of study, and are they achieving the economic return on that, and what does that look like for the students through that program? Third, you absolutely have to be able to look at the cost of completing that program. There's no doubt that in many programs today that the wage for those completers of that program has not increased at the same rate the cost to achieve it has. I certainly believe that we can increase reporting and accountability at institutional level for such metrics. We certainly can also involve accreditors in looking at institutions to present their plans to improve those outcomes. And when we do so, we can then give that information to students so they're making better choices about their future.